the deal with my papa.
Hello and welcome in to everyone. Here's a deal with Danny Sitters. I am Jeff Adair, the youth minister here at Heartland, and I'm here with Danny. Danny, it's episode 6. How's it going today?
I love it. I'm alive and well today again, and I'm thankful for this opportunity, and I just want to say thank you to all that get on and listen and make comments, and I love your input. You know, it's helpful, if for no other reason, for me to be able to process, again, some of the things that we talk about.
There you go.
And that's what we want to do today. Really want to kind of look at a practical side of what I talked about Sunday. So I'm ready. If you're ready, I'm ready.
So let's jump into it. I know, let's give a brief summary for those who may not have watched all your sermon or have caught it all. So, you mentioned we've been on the subject of our plane ticket, having our salvation, and then how we need to view heaven and earth colliding here while we're here at the present time. And so you talked about being a student at OCU and some foreign exchange students coming, and then you always having, you and a group of friends always having the right answers for them.
Right.
So I loved that story. I'm going to start off if you could briefly summarize from there.
So, when I was at OC, Oklahoma Christian, we had foreign exchange students, mostly Asian, that came. And I was in the Bible department. All right. And so here is a fresh, here's new blood.
That's right.
Right? Sick 'em. And we did. And with good hearts, well-intentioned. We wanted them to know Jesus like we had come to know Jesus. So we did the only thing we knew, and that was, sit down, open a Bible, give them our best arguments, proof of Jesus and proof of the resurrection, and here's some scriptures to think about, and here's what the Bible says. And we found it quite frustrating. I remember it was frustrating because they didn't really respond the way that I thought they should, or that we thought they should. And matter of fact, later in the semester, we find out that they thought that a lot of these Christians were pushy and kind of odd and not really in touch with the world.
Wow.
And so I remember it being an eye-opener.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I didn't tell this part. I figured out how to at least take advantage of the situation. I got one of them to be my partner in doubles ping pong, and we won the not the extracurricular, what do you call it?
Intramural?
Intramural, yeah. We won the intramural ping pong tournament. So
nice.
Hey, do what you can.
That's right, exactly. Awesome. I didn't know that. That's going to be, I have to look into that for a surprise sometime down the line here. So our method of delivery is what you were conveying there. You say, hey, our method has been off a little bit, maybe.
Well, so again, if our view of the end, and if I feel like I kind of go back and harp on this quite a bit, but it's so critically important.
Yes.
Our view of the end determines how we live life, how we see the world, how we view people, what is our purpose in life. And if our view of the end is that basically we are to get saved and hang on to that for, as long as we can, don't let anybody take our ticket out of here, then everything is okay. And so what do we share with other people? What are we supposed to talk about with them? So we share with them a gospel message of salvation. Then we, so that they will believe.
Right.
Then we teach them morality. You do these things, you don't do these things. This is the way that you live, and this is what you avoid. So we teach them how to believe with knowledge. Then we teach them with knowledge how to behave. Right? And if that all goes well, then they can belong to us.
Yeah.
So, and that's what religion does to people.
Yeah.
How do I stay in right relationship with God? And how do I keep God off my back? And how do I avoid eternal punishment?
Yes.
And that's been the answer. So again, if my focus in life is flying away to another place And what enables us to do that in our thinking is having the right salvation and the right behavior. Then that's how I'll live my life. And they say, well, wait a minute. What about the rest of the world around us and things that go on and the suffering and the evil? And you say, well, I'm not sure. It's been around forever, but I'm saved. So
That's right.
I'm kind of good to go there. So, by the way, we're hearing all of this discussion, not only in our nation now, but in the world.
Yeah.
What is our role to people who are suffering and who are downtrodden and who are less advantaged than us? What is the role of humanity? And I think the church of Jesus Christ should be leading the way in how to address the situations that we encounter in life, just like Jesus did. But we've sort of, kind of tailed off on that and don't have nearly the impact that the church had 100, 200, 300 years ago.
Right.
As we talked about this summer, Peak of the Week, the church today is more like being in a position of exile, foreigner in this land.
Yeah, that's very true.
Looked upon as people that just put up with them, or worse than that, let's get them to be quiet.
Yeah.
And I think we have to at least spend time evaluating, thinking about, asking questions. How did we allow ourselves to get into the situation that we find ourselves today?
Oh, yeah. By going through all the hurt and everything else that we have to go through. Yeah. You mentioned in your sermon that we are the temples now, that we are the place where heaven and earth collide. And so I wanted to ask you, how our view of heaven, how does that help us change that statement you just said in your sermon about heaven and earth colliding, and how does it affect us here on this earth?
So what I was pointing out is under the topic of Jesus saying we're fishers of men.
Okay, yes.
And how he translated that concept by the way that he lived and dealt with people. So there's a couple of verses in the Old Testament that describe God as a fisherman or fishing, and it has to do with taking vengeance on the oppressors of Israel, and he will reel them in or he will hook them. And so when Jesus, called the disciples, when he called the fishermen, hey, I want to now make you fishers of men, they possibly, especially if they have a Jewish background, would hear, oh yeah, let's go. I'll be part of that team.
Sign me up.
We're going to get after Rome and
right.
put Israel back on the throne of power. Yeah, let's do that. But that's not what Jesus meant, and it's not what Jesus did. So he gets these men and says, I want you to be fishers of men. And he heals a paralytic. Again, disease was often viewed as a person is being struck down by God. They're cursed by God with this disease. Leprosy was viewed that way. He deals with adulterous women. That was taboo within the religious community. But he called these people. He loved them. He healed them. He spent time with them. And so it was as if he was going around the religious structure of his day, which was the temple.
Yeah.
The temple was the one who declared who believed right, who behaved right, and who belonged.
Right, okay.
And Jesus was going around that. And in other words, saying that the temple, right? The temple is the place that they believe that God lived.
Yes.
Humans have always needed to know, where is God?
Right.
So when you kind of walk through the Jewish scriptures, God was on the mountain.
Yes.
It scared them to death when there would be, thunderous noises coming from the mountain, or God lived in the tabernacle, or God lives in the synagogue, but God lived in the temple. That was his home. That's where heaven and earth met. That's why it was holy. You wanted to make sure that you dotted every I and crossed every T when you went into the presence of God, or something bad, could happen to you. And Jesus bypasses the temple on the mount. It's basically saying the temple is here,
Yeah.
and the temple is among us. And so the temple where heaven and earth meet are now found within individual Christians as they go about their lives here on earth. So that we are the ones who are taking the presence of God to the world.
That's a concept
Right?
to think
Peter
about.
says, "You are now, all of you are priests."
Yeah.
We're all now called to function this way. So yeah, if our idea, again, is we fly away up there, that leaves a lot of questions again about how I live life. But if heaven comes here, if the New Jerusalem comes here, and eternity will be in the presence of God, as Revelation describes here, it means that this is a good place.
Yeah.
This place might be purified by fire, right? It'll be now again in the presence of God, but this is home. We changed the words to the song, "This world is my home."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it really does change one's perspective and how they are to live life. What if Jesus comes back today and neighbors that we live close to, we haven't tried to get involved with their lives? What will life be like for them?
Yeah.
So it raises a lot of question, but for me, it gives me direction. It gives me purpose, and especially watching Jesus and how he lived his life, and how he loved people. He offered grace to people. He offered forgiveness to people. Some of them are just, we would consider bad people, the riffraff of culture, and he loved them. I heard it said years ago that the only real harsh words Jesus ever spoke was to religious leaders.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
That's a stake in the heart.
Yeah.
What would he say to me? What would he say to us? What would Jesus say to the church today? I've often thought that. What would Paul say? If he looked at us today, what would he say? How are we doing?
Yeah. That's a great question to ask. To ask yourself is, what would Jesus say if we were doing that today? On that vein, I wanted to take on to the next step. I've been thinking about some things about intergenerational. And so I read a book by the Barna Group not too long ago. Old thinking that they came up with all the research and everything, was that the church exists to prepare the next generation to fulfill God's purposes, which I would say there's a lot of truth there. But they say the new thinking needs to be that the church is a partnership of generations fulfilling God's purposes in their time. So in my view of heaven, bringing in, as we collide, we have the older generations, which have wisdom, knowledge, experience. And if we can get that together with the younger ones that are, they're enthusiastic, they're very, they have a lot of energy, and they're just hot for, I call it hot for God. They're just ready to share. And so if we can get those two together, I think that would be a glimpse into heaven myself. So if we can change that way of thinking, transforming our mind, like you said. So what are some practical ways that we can start thinking differently instead of just having our ticket, and how we can actually create that heaven here on earth?
So I think we've got some challenges before us that we have to address.
Yeah.
It's like, when you go through counseling with somebody and you present your issues, especially for men, we think, okay, I said the problem, now it's going to all be better.
It's all better.
It's all going to go away.
That's right.
No, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You got to deal with this. And so I think the church has several challenges that can be overcome. It's going to take time, but we got to address it. So somebody sent me an article this week. I believe that it came out of the Kansas City Star. The title of it is, "Majority of Christians Don't Belong to a Place of Worship in Historic Decline," a poll finds, by Mike Stunsom, I believe is his name. And I read this article. Now, again, this is not groundbreaking news
Right.
for us. We've known this, that church attendance, church commitment has been on the decline. And so as of today, less than 50% of Americans say they belong to a church, a synagogue, or a mosque.
Wow.
And that's the first time that that statistic has dropped below 50% since the Gallup poll started in 1935.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's sort of shocking, but yet we kind of know that.
Yeah.
Another 36% of millennials, and that's the years between 1981 and 1996, if you were born in those years, 36% of millennials belong to a church, a synagogue, or a mosque, which goes back to a point that I raised a few weeks ago about this rising group of what is referred to as nons or nuns. They just have no affiliation with the body of Christ. They might, again, acknowledge Jesus Christ as the Son of God, Savior and Lord, and they attempt to live a moral life,
Right.
maybe be involved with community, but they're not really connected to a church with a body of believers. And you got to say why.
Yeah.
You got to not say. You got to ask why. What is it about the church that is not as attractive as it used to be?
There you go. Yeah.
On the one hand, and not forces, but alienates people to where they don't feel like they can participate.
Right.
So another question is, where are we going as a church? And by the way, again, since 2020 and the pandemic, everything is kind of wide open now.
Right.
And that has forced us to ask a lot of questions. Where are our young people? Why do they not see the value, in what the church has to offer? Why do we lose so many of our children once they graduate high school?
Yeah.
Those are tough questions. Now, again, two ways to look at that. At answering that, one is, they're just not really believers.
Yeah.
Those people aren't committed. The other is to say, what are we doing wrong as a church?
Right.
What do we need to improve on? And I think that there is at least some level of correlation between the church's view of the end and the outcomes that we experience.
That's very true.
Whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So I ask these questions of us. I ask them of myself in relation to this, and that is, what do we have to offer as a body of Christ? What are we offering people? What are we out there sharing with others that they would look at, that they would listen to, that they would see in us and say, I'll have some of that.
Yeah, I want some of that.
I want some of that.
Yeah.
There's something different about you. But if again, and let me say it, it's getting redundant. If our view of the end is just hang on to my salvation ticket, and that's really all the level of involvement, stay away from the world, is that attractive to folks? Is that something that they would look at and say, I want some of that? If our behavior and our standards are not much different from the world, if our marriages and divorce rate rank, neck and neck with the rest of the world, which they do, and again, I want to be careful not to just cast blanket statements over everybody that has challenges in marriage, but just in a statistical point of view, if our marriages are no different and divorce rates no different from the world, and we have the same struggles and issues and problems that we at times either ignore or have a difficult time overcoming, why would other people want to be a part of this movement?
Yeah.
Think about it. It would be easy for them to say, you know what, I got enough of my own problems here. I don't need any more of that.
I don't need any more of that. That's
I don't
right.
need any more of that.
Yeah.
But taking it a step further, the church has had a tendency to be viewed as people who are condemning, finger pointing, isolationists, and the world often doesn't feel loved
Yeah.
and accepted. So I think that's by the way, this isn't easy stuff. This isn't easy stuff to hear. It's not easy stuff for me to say.
Right.
But, here's the deal. That's the name of this podcast.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. What do we have? What are we offering? Jesus said, go into all the world, right, and make disciples. We've said, build a structure and invite them in.
Invite them here.
Come here, and here's the set times that you can come in and get the message and get the morality. And so when we look to serve, let's be real honest, we tend to throw breadcrumbs from the cathedral windows to people and say, here you go, we're learning how to serve, and if you come to our place next time, we'll give you 2 breadcrumbs instead of 1. But we really love the world. Now go back to your side of town.
Yeah.
Go back to the other side of the lake.
Right.
So I think we have to think. So I say we have to have something to offer. What would attract me to another group of people?
Okay.
Right? What would attract me? And again, all of this is based on the foundation of Jesus Christ, right? That's a given,
Right.
from our perspective. We have nothing without Jesus. We have no hope. We don't have abundant life, but with Jesus we are to have life abundantly.
Yes.
And to go into all the world and to be different and to be the temple where heaven and earth meet.
Yes.
So you got to have something to offer. What would attract me? I'm attracted to passion in people and purpose. They have a passion for life. They have a purpose in life, in the here and now. They're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Where are they going? They know their direction. They have a vision for life, and they work toward it. And they're moving in that direction, So people with a zest for life. Where's my level of purpose and passion in the here and now? I have to ask myself that. I'm attracted to people who have been challenged in life, who have suffered, who have failed,
Yeah, there you go.
who have sinned, who have hurt, but they overcome it.
Yeah.
They get up off the ground, and through God's help and the Spirit and investing in the lives of others and getting advice and counseling and changing their behavior and changing their life, they've overcome. I love the story of someone that's overcome. See, I wouldn't share my story, my struggle, with somebody that I believe is perfect and had no struggles.
That's true.
Why would I share that? Because I feel like they wouldn't understand me.
Right.
I feel like they might even point a finger at me and say, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why don't you just get your life together? The old Bob Newhart counseling method. Just stop it. Just stop it.
Just stop it.
Well, I would if I could. I'm attracted to people who not only have a passion, but they're working in some area of their life and in their corner of the world to make this place better. They're involved.
Yeah.
They want to see, in our little neighborhood, I see several people, our neighbors, that once a year get out there at the entrance of the neighborhood and plant flowers. And they're doing it together. I don't have a green thumb. There's nothing that interests me. But every time I pass by and see him, I think that's what the church is supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to be about. It could be from planting flowers to, really being involved in the lives of those who are hurting, being connected to people who are in prison. I mean, it can go from what we might consider as something small to something in our mind that might be large.
Yeah.
But Jesus said, if you just give a cup of cold water in my name, you're doing it for me. I like that. I'm attracted to people like that. I'm impressed and attracted to people whose marriages are a reflection, like Paul says in Ephesians, they're a reflection of Jesus and the church.
Yeah.
They're really connected to each other. That you sense a holiness and a spiritual maturity about them. Those are, and thankfully Marianne and I both have couples that will mentor us from time to time.
Yes.
And we don't mind sharing with them what things that we go through and challenges that we have had because we know they work on it.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with people who raise children to have a zest for life.
Yeah.
And they're go-getters. Right now, again, I don't want a blanket statement everything because as children grow, they make their own decisions.
Yes.
And some choose to go a different direction, and they break our hearts. Right. So that's not on the parent, but I love families that I see where their children are just exploring the world and growing, and they're becoming that's attractive. What's attractive is people who, as an employee, they just transform their workplace. They are light, right? They're light to the world. They work with a purpose and a mission, but the purpose and mission is always beyond the job description that they're given on paper.
Yeah.
They realize that their job description is to invest in the lives of others and help others and to be part of community. And that's another one. I love people who are connected to community.
Yes.
Those are the people, by the way, that you need to talk to if you ever have a need. You say, hey, do you know somebody that knows anything about a carburetor? Oh, yeah. Oh, John over here does this, and Mike and Sally and Susie. But I'll tell you the best, they live in community.
Yeah.
There's so much blessing about being in community. Which, again, today we're isolated from each other.
Yeah.
And the church has to back up and ask the question, how do we become community again? I think that's a great question.
Yes, it is.
And so anyway, let me just leave you with this last one. What I'm drawn to are people who are keenly aware of the needs and the hurts and the challenges of society around them. Right? So people who do their research and they read and they think and they see and they get involved with other people. And I just thought, okay, what are our challenges today? How might we do this? Well, here's what we know. People are struggling with their health. Mm-hmm. Not just with COVID, but health in general. There's a financial challenge that people have today. People struggle with their own purpose in life. Yeah. What am I here for? What am I supposed to do? Marriage challenges, family challenges, raising children today. Raising children today is not like when Marianne and I raised our four, or when you and I were raised.
Right, exactly.
It's changed.
Yeah.
It's different. And this isn't a podcast on that. But I do know of several young couples today who have talked to me about it, and I always refer them to Marianne. I said, don't ask me because I wasn't the one that raised them. My approach was if they came in the middle of the night, And they start calling our name. I always told them, hey, just go to the bathroom. That's what my dad told me, that going to the bathroom fixes everything. Nightmares,
Yeah.
or, whatever, a headache or stomach ache, just go to the bathroom, and that'll be fine. My other approach was to say, you want me to get the belt? I had a cowboy belt I never wore, but I had it hanging in the closet because it had a big buckle, and if I went and grabbed it, it jingled. And you ask any of my four today what was one of the most scary sounds, it was the belt buckle.
Oh, wow.
Right? So thankfully, I never had to swing it. But no, that's not the world that children are growing up into. And I don't say that to sound condemning, but there are a lot of questions that are being asked.
Yes.
People struggle with isolation today. So what do I have to offer? Well, how could I help them? Right? More than just, hey, got a Bible study here for you. And by the way, Bible studies are critical. That I don't demean or denounce that in any way. I want somebody that would be involved in my life. I want somebody that would love me. I need somebody that offers me grace. And I need somebody that will walk along with me and help me on this journey of becoming what I'm called to become.
Yeah.
But the challenge is this. That takes time. It takes money. It takes effort. It takes rearranging my calendar. But what a difference the church could make if we were to do that.
Yeah. So
the text that I read from was Romans chapter 12. And the verse was, don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So he's writing to the believers in Rome. And I just went back and I looked at all of the things that Paul had said in that chapter before he got to that. And a couple of things I want to point out.
Okay.
That in view of God's mercy, we are to offer our bodies as living sacrifice, right? Don't conform to this world. Don't be like this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. But he says a few other things. Practice hospitality. So we tend to think of hospitality as having someone over and sitting down having a meal.
Right.
Which is a part of it. But hospitality, I believe, literally means to open my space to someone so that they feel comfortable coming into my space.
Yeah, see, I think of a hotel when I think of hospitality.
Right.
It's that way, yeah.
Right. You're welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
As you are, you're welcome in my space. So it might include my house or my car, but it's in my personal space. You're welcome in my life. I'm not judging you.
Wow.
I'm not condemning you. You're welcome to be around me. He talks about be devoted to one another. And he says, share with God's people who are in need. And then this one, bless those who persecute you. Church is being persecuted today.
Yeah.
And boy, we don't like it. And we want to, we want to get this thing straightened out and get right and, put people in jail. And I mean, it's tough. I say, how could we bless people that persecute us? How could we bless people that look down on us, mock us, make fun of us, condemn us?
Yeah.
How would we bless them? How could we love them? And knowing that if you were to go and bless them in whatever way, you're probably going to get shouted out, made fun of, made to look inferior. It doesn't matter, though. The church the church has a higher calling than the standards of this world.
Right.
Bless those who persecute you. And he says, associate with people of low position. So he kind of gives you all these things to work on as a community, and then says, look, don't be overcome by evil. We overcome evil with good. And I gave a couple of examples with the history of Christmas and how early Christians did that, and then, of course, in Ephesus and how they did it. It's possible, but not until we get really honest with ourselves and ask these questions and take a look at our own theology and challenge one another.
Yeah, there you go.
With these questions. And maybe we begin to form a think tank group of Christians here that we have these discussions.
I like that.
Where have we failed? How can we put into practice the principles that Jesus not only taught, but that he lived, so that we can reach the world around us? I do believe there's hope. It'll take time. It's not a quick fix. No. We're just at the beginning right now of church counseling.
Yes,
right?
There you go.
We can identify it, but don't think that solves it.
Yeah.
And we begin to proceed to become Jesus to the world. That's what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
Be Jesus to the world, because this is Jesus's world.
Right. That's very true. Going back to that Barna research, they kept saying that, like, they're harping on it, but said that we need to rethink the way that we make disciples. And that just really stuck with me, because kind of like what you were saying, we need to rethink our theology and how we view the end times, because I'm sure your end time view, like you've said before, affects your here and now. So if you're just checking your ticket, you've got to say, hey, you're telling somebody else, as long as you get your ticket, you're good. And that's not the way to make a disciple. So that always stuck with me.
True.
As we're continuing through this thought process, can you give us a little preview of what you're thinking about for Sunday? I know Sunday, of course, I've always made the joke with Danny of on Easter, I know the subject matter, so I know where he's going, but I still want to get a preview for this Sunday since it's Easter.
So you blew my funny answer. I was going to say resurrection. Let's talk about the resurrection. The resurrection of Jesus is what the church worldwide will be thinking about.
Yes.
Resurrection, what does it mean? Now, we know the resurrection of Jesus, and so Sunday I don't have any plans to do proof of the resurrection of Jesus. What does his resurrection mean for my life?
Yeah.
And how do I resurrect?
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank here. In John 3, Jesus talks to Nicodemus about being born again.
Yes.
Right. We tend to think of a topic like that, being born again, as a one-time deal. That's right. I was born again. I was born into the kingdom, or in Jesus and my salvation. But you read that text again and again, you begin to realize that being born again is not a one-time event.
No way.
I had a mentor tell me years ago, if you don't reinvent yourself every 5 years, you're not growing.
Yeah.
If you don't change, what does that mean? Being born again, starting over. If your marriage is not born again every 4 or 5 years or so, because we're all getting older and we think differently and our hormones change, right. And are you really growing?
Yeah.
Or are you stagnant? The same thing with resurrection, right? What is my resurrection in life? Well, it begins with, again, my coming to Jesus dead, right? Romans 6, right. And our baptism, and we're dying to self and we're buried, and then we're pulled up through the waters, right? Our resurrection in Jesus to new life.
Yes.
And that's a resurrection. But there are other times in life when I need to be resurrected. I'm kind of dead.
Yeah.
Dead all over like Rover. Or I kind of gotten lax. How do I continue this process of being resurrected? And sometimes, not always, sometimes it means coming to the end of myself. Which is where our first resurrection took place, right?
I was gonna say, yeah.
You die.
Right.
It doesn't get any more dead than dead.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the prayer of Jonah from the belly of the whale.
Oh, okay.
There's something about that prayer that just cracks me up. He really had nowhere else to turn.
So, yeah.
And so, I want to, and I'm not sure. I'm thinking this through. But that prayer, in the darkness of the whale, and God resurrected him.
Yeah.
But look at his words. But here's how I know this idea of resurrection isn't a one-time event. God resurrected him. He changed his mind. He goes to Nineveh, preaches, they repent, and he turns around and gets angry again.
So he's still mad.
He's mad. He's in need of a new resurrection.
Yeah.
He's in need of being born again. So I want us to think about that, where we are in life. The resurrection means that death no longer holds any power over us.
Yes.
That we are now a people of hope. But again, practically, what does that mean? How do I live resurrected life
Yeah.
in the midst of the world around me? So anyway, that's the long answer to your short question about where we're going Sunday.
I love it. I can't wait for that. I was talking with the teens on this past Sunday, a couple days ago, about how Easter's coming up and how all their friends and mostly everybody knows the story of it and how we are getting to it. So I told them to keep their eyes out for world-changing events, since we're going to be coming to a world-changing event on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I told them to keep their eye out for world-changing events this week. Now, that could be somebody sending you a text saying hello, or like we talked about before, somebody sending you a text saying, I believe in you. So I told them to look out for that. So one thing I'll tell you, too, is look out for world-changing events this week. So everybody out there listening as well. It's going to be a big thing. I love Easter.
Love it.
So, Danny, thank you again for coming in and sitting down with me. I really appreciate it. This is fun.
Thank you.
I know I've heard a lot of people that have sent me texts and everything that saying they're really enjoying the podcast. So this is really good stuff. I'm really appreciate you sitting down. Good. Thank you again for the sermon. I know what all it takes to put into a sermon on Sunday afternoon. I'm sure you are probably a little tired after getting done preaching. So I appreciate all the work that you go into that. And it's really good stuff that you're putting out. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I enjoy it. And, I will say that it's amazing to me that I'm in this position as minister. I grapple with the grace of God, the love of Jesus, trying to articulate those concepts and life-altering ideas to people.
Yeah.
And so I'm really today thankful for grace.
Love it. Everyone, have a wonderful week. Danny, it was good to see you again, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you. God bless all of you.